Hey guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie and this is Red.
Hey guys.
Red, well, when I met her real name is Madison, and when I first met her, she goes by Red. So I was like, wait, I don't know why I was so confused by this. Like it's not that confusing of a concept that your nickname is Red, you go by your nickname. Like so many people do that, but for some reason for me, it was really hard for me to catch on at first.
It's a weird nickname though, like a color.
I was like, was she born as Red though? Like, was like, what's her legal name? Like, I thought your real name was Red. Um, but it matches you perfect. So now I'm obsessed.
Well,
I was
thanks.
never not obsessed. I was just uneducated on your nickname abilities. So
Yeah,
here we
that's
are
okay.
now. This is coming out later in the fall, but Red and I worked with each other this past summer. We were on different sides of camp, but we got to spend a lot of time together and get to know each other. And every time I saw her, we would just run up into each other's arms, and it was perfect.
Really?
And so we got close really fast, and Red's heart for the Lord was just evident. And she has a really cool story of just where the Lord has brought her from, and it's evident that she loves the Lord and her actions align with that. Um, and it's just really sweet. And so it's fun to be her friend because you're just a fun person, but you're also really deep and you carry things with grace and wisdom. And so thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, tell us where you're from, some fun fact like that.
Okay, so I'm from Watertown, Tennessee. Um, I play college basketball. It's always a fun
Yep.
fact.
Yep.
Um, I'm a sophomore. I just transferred from Johnson University to Cumberland University. And I'm majoring in special education.
Sweetness. Um, and that was perfect with what you did this summer. I felt like you ended up getting some special needs little campers in your group, and that was really sweet to watch you step into it fully. Because there, most of us had a time or two where we would have a special needs camper in our group, but I feel like you always would connect with them the fastest and the easiest. And so I feel like that's just such a confirmation of you're in the right path of what the Lord's calling you to. That's really sweet.
Yes, I
Okay,
love
yay.
it.
Do you want to dive into your testimony?
Yes, I will. So I always do this before I start saying it. I want to be like, okay, hey, I'm okay for what I'm gonna tell you guys. Um, the things that have happened for a reason. So my mom has been in jail my whole life. She recently got out while we were at camp this summer. And that was her first time being out in about 2 years. So it was a big change.
Yeah.
Then my dad passed away when I was 3. So going obviously growing up, your people are always like, oh, I'm with my mom and dad. Well, I got to say oh, I'm with my grandma and grandpa. I live with my
Mhm.
grandparents. So I started living with my grandparents in first grade. Um, they're amazing. I love them so much.
Mm.
My grandparents are literally
Yeah.
my world. They're very strict. I joke about that all the time. We call her Karen as a joke.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful for them, the way that they stepped in. Sorry, my roommate's leaving. Bye, love you. um, she, my grandma is probably my best friend, even though she's just my grandma, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
perfect.
so I lived with them in first grade. Um, I it was kind of I didn't really know much before, so it was kind of just okay. You're stepping into this Christian family. Well, my grandfather is a pastor and my grandma is a banker. So, coming to live with a pastor and a banker, they're strict. They have strict rules. I have an older aunt who was in the household with us. She was in college when I first started living there. And so I had an older sister. So much of people said she was like my mom. I love her so much. She's one of the biggest role models in my life, and I want to be just like her. And her kids are my little siblings. I love them so much.
Sweet.
But growing up in a Christian household, I feel like I always had expectations that I always had to meet. And so growing up, I feel like I was just going through the motions when I was going to church because I was like, oh, I'm this preacher's granddaughter. Oh, I'm okay. I'm going to church every Sunday. I'm going to church every
Right.
Wednesday. Well, as I'm growing up, like I'm for real just going through the motions. I'm just okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this and do that, and I wasn't understanding what I was doing at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until middle school where I really started grasping it. So I went to Fuge my 7th grade year. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, summer of my 6th grade, going into 7th grade.
Okay.
And my first Fuge, I actually did not understand anything that was happening because it was so like, whoa, like
Right.
it was all hitting me.
Yeah.
But in 7th grade, I had like a come to like Jesus moment really because
Yeah.
my great grandparents, my great grandpa's still alive. He's 93.
Go him.
He's adorable. I love him so much. But my great grandma, I rode the bus to their house every single day. Well, in 7th grade, she like how I say my grandma was my best friend, this lady was my best friend.
Yeah.
Um she passed away, and like she had been sick for a while, but it was more of a like, oh, like whoa, like okay, she's passing away, like this is so sad. Um by like I was like so upset about it and stuff that I really didn't know what to do. Like my grandparents were always there for me, but then like watching my great grandpa go from like being so happy then being so sad was like so heartbreaking for me. And like to this day, like he like hangs out with my sister and me as a way of like it helps him. But watching
Yeah.
him overcome it and him like go to church still and being like in the word, like just loving Jesus so much and helping him get out of it, maybe be like, okay, wait, I need to take this so much more serious than I am.
Right.
Cause like I was like, okay, I could literally pass away any day, even though I know she was sick, but it's just like, whoa, like I need to take it
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Then I was in 8th grade and like everyone's going through middle school, we're going through that girl
Right.
drama, boy girl drama. Well,
Yeah.
um, growing up, I had friends, but more so I just talked to everyone. I had friends, but they weren't very like good friends in a way.
Right. Right.
Um, but middle school girls, it's everything's the same.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally, they're all in this like we're all on the same team. Um, I live in a really small town, so everyone knows everyone. Like that's just how it was. And then going into high school, my freshman year, I started playing basketball. In my senior year, I had some seniors that I really, really looked up to and really, really helped me because one, I had no clue what I was doing because it's such a change from middle school to high school, and they
Literally.
helped me get through that. But I also was like falling short in my walk with the Lord. I wasn't living in the Word, um, and I wasn't really like I don't know. I still kind of wasn't understanding. Like I would
Yeah.
go and I would read and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I got it, and then it would be like, but I don't, and I
Right.
didn't feel like I was being obedient to the Lord at all. Excuse me, with my walk with Him.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like I start driving, and so there's opportunities of like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with this person, I'm gonna hang out with this
Yep.
person. Well, then I was getting introduced to like, oh, boys like me, like, oh, and I loved like the boy attention, and I was
Yeah.
more worried about the boy attention than I was how I was doing with the Lord.
Right.
And so my sophomore year, it was just like I was like basketball. It was basketball, school, boys. That's literally all
Yep.
it was. And that
Yeah.
was consuming my life. And I was putting basketball over everything because I was like, I have to be good at basketball. I have to do this. I gotta be like, I have to meet these expectations or like nothing's gonna go my way. Like, I have to do this. I have to
Right.
play. I would always be like, I have to play college basketball. Like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And, oh, my alarm clock. Then, my junior year, I kind of came to like a realization of like basketball's not my world. It's okay to not want to play it all the time. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to like feel it.
Yeah.
Then I was in a relationship. This relationship was very good. This guy, he's great. We're still friends to this day. But we dated for quite a while. Um And like I said, he was a great guy, but my relationship turned very lustful.
Yeah.
Um and if like everyone knew me, I was like hardcore like no, that's like
Right.
no, I would never do anything like that.
Right.
And then I was in the lust. I was stuck in the lust and
Right.
I honestly didn't know, like it was more of a way of like I knew what was wrong, but I was still continuing to do it. And then people would
Right.
ask me for advice, and I would tell them one thing, and I was being a hypocrite and I was doing the other.
Right.
And it wasn't until my senior year, until me and that boy, like, we ended on terms, like, we were
Yeah.
done, that I realized, like, I was prioritizing him over the Lord. I was prioritizing
Mm.
basketball again over the world, the lustful
Yep.
things.
Right.
Um, and he basically, like, the Lord kind of, like, not in a way took everything from me, but in a way he did. So he had to show
Yeah.
me, like, look what you're doing.
Right.
So one, I mean, he took the boy away. Two, I didn't have any offers for basketball. And like I said, I was saying basketball was my world. So like I was upset
Right.
about that. I was like, oh, I got broken up with. I'm crying all the time, like
Right.
that way. Like
Right.
I was upset. And so I was like, I literally remember like I was laying in my bed one night and I was like, what? Like questioning God. I was like, why? Like
Mm.
I literally haven't done anything wrong. Like what am I doing? Like
Right.
what can I do? And I was like, and then I just remember one night I was like, you are doing everything wrong. Like
Mm.
you're not realizing like you're doing this and this is the outcome of this, or like I'm just continuing the cycle that wasn't going the way that
Right.
the Lord intended me to be. So my senior year, at the end of it, I stopped being friends with those friends that I had friends with for many years.
Right.
Um, and I got close to these girls that I had never really talked to during high school, but impacted my high school, the end of it, so much.
Mm.
I talked about this person. Her name's Maddie. We were friends through high school, but my seniors especially, she she actually worked Fuge too. She was an SLA lead, which is pretty cool. We used to go to church camp together too. But
Yeah.
she was the person who kept me accountable when I was like,
Mm.
I don't know what to do, or like I feel like
Right.
I really want to do this, and she'd be like, no. She would
Right.
always pull up scripture. She would always invite me to
Yep.
Bible study.
Mm.
Um, and like I needed that person in that time because
Right.
I felt like I didn't have anyone.
Right.
Um, but she was a person who really helped me understand what I was doing and how I needed to turn like my life around.
Right.
Um, and then I went to college. I went to Johnson, and that's a Christian college and stuff like that. And I was expecting to go to a Christian college and everyone there to be Christians.
Right.
Um, well, that's not how it was at all.
Mm.
At all. There
Yeah.
were people in my class, and they didn't want to talk about the Lord, or they didn't want to understand it. Like they did not want to at all. And it was hard for me to be like, I've never heard someone who doesn't want to understand it. And so like I would have conversations with some of the
Mm.
people on my team, and we would talk about it, and they'd be like, oh, I want that. And it would kind of just be like, okay, but I was in a place where I didn't know how to describe it to them at all.
Right.
And I don't know, it was hard for me my freshman year because it was just like I never knew what to say when someone had a question, or like I never just felt like I was saying the right thing to them in a way. Um and then it was like March was rolling around. It was like the beginning of May. It was like right before we left for camp. I actually got hired for Fuge like really late because I wanted to do a special education job. Like you brought it up about special ed. I wanted to do that, and I ended up not getting the job because they said that I wasn't qualified because I didn't have the experience of it. And so then Maddie, my friend, she was like, I think that you should apply for Fuge. And I was just like, no, I did SLA. I didn't really enjoy it in a way. Because at the time I was more worried about other things when I did it. And so when I applied, I had my interview, and when I was on my interview, she was asking me these bunch of questions, and I was answering them, and I was like, okay, like, well, this kind of seems like really cool actually. And then
Right.
it wasn't 2 days later she placed me.
Mm.
But while I was coming into camp, I was coming in of like I wasn't gonna tell like my full testimony because I didn't want to be judged, or I didn't want people to be like, what are you, ew,
Right.
like
Right.
I don't know, but like uh, it was actually the first week. I was like, you know what? I don't know anyone here. I'm just gonna put it all out there.
Yeah.
And me and Caleb, which you know Caleb,
Yeah.
we were church hosting together, and it was like this big church, and we were like, okay, let's do it together. Like Gretchen asked us to do it. Let's do it. And I
Right.
do it, and they asked me and Caleb to tell our testimony. And I made him go first, and I didn't want to do it at all. Like, I didn't want to tell
Right.
my testimony for some reason, but I was like, you know what? No. So I do it, and then it was like immediately after, people were coming up to me, and they were like, I'm struggling like this. Like, how did you do it? Like, and it
Right.
kind of was like eye opening because it happened every week where someone would be like, I'm
Yeah.
struggling with this too.
Mm.
And it was just like, I didn't think that anyone would relate. I thought someone would be like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, how are you doing
Right.
that?
Right.
And I don't know, I feel like camp just helped me get closer to the Lord in a way because I feel like if I didn't, I would have been here all summer. Like, I would still be like close to the Lord, but camp definitely like helped me and just get a lot closer to the Lord, really.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's
Gosh.
about it. Sorry, I just like yapped for so long,
Yeah.
but
No, that was so perfect. I was like actually vested. There's so many parts of your story that I think are really sweet. And like almost like redemption now of the lesson that like I feel like we all struggle with of like priorities. And growing up in like the sports world, it is like soccer was this, and then it was cross country for me, and it was basketball for you, and
yeah.
it gets put on like this good thing when it becomes a God thing. No longer it's a good thing anymore because it's become an idol. And I think that that's like so real and something so many people struggle with is like finding the balance of using our sports or our talents or what we enjoy doing as a way to share the gospel and be a light in a dark place. But it's really hard to balance it and not let it cross the line of like now I've put this as an idol. And so I think even just like starting of that of being like that is just so normal and so real and something that people need to hear of like you're not alone when you struggle with the fact that it's hard to balance um like fun activities that are not bad for us with who Jesus is, and then when it becomes in the way of me knowing Jesus better, all of a sudden it's a problem. And so I think it's really sweet that you got to like work through that. And then how you said like the Lord took everything away. And I think that's just so real. Like sometimes the Lord has to strip us from everything so we can realize what we were putting above him. And he strips us of everything because we realize that we were putting our dependence or our worth in boys or in a sport or in friendships or in how our family dynamic looks or whatever that is. And then the Lord strips us from that and we realize where we our dependence lies and where our dependence needs to lie. And our dependence as believers needs to lie in who Jesus is. But it is so easy, especially when we get like, okay, I got a little bit of attention from a boy. So let's like keep this going because that feels good. Or I won this basketball game and I trained this many days a week. So I'm going to do that again. And I think so often we just like want to go, go, go because it makes us feel good in the moment when we really need to like take the Sabbath and rest and sit back and see who Jesus is and show our dependence on him by being willing to take a step back. Um, and so I just think like all of those parts of your story of high school of the struggle of lust and friends and, you know, living for the world, but then also like knowing about Christianity and that whole balance. And so it's like, it feels like a war of the enemy wants to pull us somewhere. But Jesus is also pulling us somewhere, but he's not gonna, force us to go. And you know we walk so far away and all we have to do is just turn around and he's standing there ready to get us. And so I think just like that honesty of that part of your story is good for people to hear and be reminded of like a heart check of like what in my life right now am I putting above Jesus, and how can I take it down a few notches to make sure Jesus remains on the throne. um and just like we get comfortable in our sin of that. We get comfortable in lust because it feels like you're not doing anything wrong, or we get comfortable in lying because it doesn't feel that bad, or you know, gossiping because it feels this. And it's like we need to get back to the place where we're uncomfortable with our own sin. So I just think all those parts of your story are really sweet. And then even just like the hard parts of it, of like your mom being in jail and your dad passing away when you're a young girl. But then even seeing like the Lord's provision and giving you really sweet grandparents. And you now breaking that cycle of like, just because this is something that your mom struggles with doesn't mean it has to be something that you struggle with, and that you're already like walking in freedom of that. And I think that's just really encouraging, because so often we feel tied down by the chains that are attached to our family or our families or our friends or the past, and we can release those chains and walk in the freedom of who Jesus created us to be. And I think that's just evident in your story, because it's like, just because your mom's in jail, or was in jail, doesn't mean that that has to be the same as your story. Um, and I'm just really encouraged by the fact that you're willing to um, walk a different path, you know?
Mhm.
So, I think that's really sweet. What has been hard about this season? Maybe college, maybe your mom getting out of jail, something like that. What's been hard, and then what's been something that's been kind of sweet?
So actually for me, it would definitely be like I know they were talking about like the transition from camp to real life, but they weren't lying. They weren't joking about it. It's rough.
Right,
Um, so it was definitely the transition, starting a new school, starting a new team,
right,
um, and actually moving into an apartment. I moved into an apartment with my other teammates, and like, that comes with temptation. That comes
right.
with everything because you're on your own. You're doing this. So just like me trying to live in the Word still,
Mhm.
and that's been like a priority since I've been here.
Good.
So that's definitely been the hardest is the transition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a good thing that's came out of it is I kind of am at peace with the fact that like not this is gonna sound weird, but not
Yeah.
everyone is your friend in a
Mm.
way.
Yeah.
And the Lord is teaching me like you don't always have to talk to everyone. Like,
Mm.
and I felt like I always felt like I need to talk to this person or they're gonna be upset. Like I need to do this. And it's kind of
Right.
where I'm like I'm at peace where I'm like, no, it's okay to be alone. It's okay
Mm.
to take time with the Lord and that's it.
Yep.
And I've really enjoyed just taking a moment and just being in the Word with Him.
Gosh, that's so sweet. I think honestly the best way to fight back temptation is getting in the Word. And so whether that's like temptation of what we were talking about earlier of lust, or the temptation of making things an idol, or the temptation of all your friends are doing this one thing, but you know that's not biblical and you're not going to look more like Jesus if you do it. So then the temptation of saying no to that, or the temptation of loneliness, like whatever it might look like, or the listening to like being tempted by the lies of the enemy of like, hey, your mom did this, this is what you're gonna do, or hey, you struggled with this before, you're gonna go back to there. um and to fight against that, I just feel like we talked a lot about Ephesians 6 this summer, but just like putting on that full armor of God, and by getting in the Word and doing that. And so I think that's encouraging that you're willing to do that. And also, I think sometimes as believers, it feels like we're going to arrive where we get to a point where we don't face temptation, or, oh, well, I did this, so like I'm chilling now. But it's like, no, it's this constant battle of sin, of sanctification, and it's this constant battle of not listening or believing the lies of the enemy, but then walking in freedom. And so I think that's just a good reminder for people of being like, if you are a believer, it doesn't mean all of a sudden everything's easy or all the temptation goes away, or anything like that, but it is something that we have to fight against and then walk in light of. And I think the best way is to do that is to um, read God's word and have it written on our hearts, and then live in light of what we learned from that.
Yes.
Uh, well, thanks for sharing your story and being vulnerable. Even though I like totally agree with what you're saying, like how you said at the beginning of the summer, it's like scary to tell the hard parts of your story, because it's like, what are people going to think? And I've seen that in my life too, of like, if I share the hard parts, what are people going to think about me? It's like, oh, I'm saying this, 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 and this, but I struggle with depression every day. Like, what are people going to think of me then? Or,
Yeah.
um, I'm willing to proclaim who Jesus is, but I also have anxiety attacks. Okay, then it feels like I want to hide those parts of my story. Um, but I found this like really sweet place of the vulnerability and the honesty, because people relate. People are also walking through the struggles and the temptations and just the hard parts of life that we are too. And when we pretend like we have it all together all the time, um, that's like misleading because life is hard. And it can be hard and really sweet at the same time. And so to be honest about both of those parts of the story is really sweet. So, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next week. Bye.